baseball fans. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome into On Deck. I do appreciate it. While you're here, make sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and hit the bell for notifications so that you can stay up to date with everything going on here at On Deck, and of course, with the Atlanta Braves. And we are winding down from the trade deadline. We are past that, and the trade deadline is always a good time to not only reflect on where we have been, but also look ahead. We've talked extensively about the trade deadline. If you want my thoughts on it, you're welcome to go check it out. They're on the channel in previous videos. But one move that I wanted to talk about before we did anything else tonight was the move of trading Will Smith for Jake Odorizzi. And I'm going to put this up. This is Jake's stats before the trade deadline. 3.75 ERA, 46 strikeouts, 6.9 strikeout per nine. I think this was a smart move. And as we move towards this schedule that I'm going to show you, because we're going to go through the month of August and then through the month of September, when you see that, I think you're going to understand as well. But again, I like this move. By the way, if you missed it, and this is in no ill feeling whatsoever, but in the instant of the trade, the instant impact of the trade, Will Smith, in the first pitch he threw as an Astro was a home run in the ninth inning. So I just thought I would throw that out there as a fun note. But Jake Odorizzi, we're excited to have him. Hopefully we'll see him start a game soon. We will see him start a game soon because the schedule coming up in August is a gauntlet. Now, you all know that the Mets series is starting tonight in about a little over an hour. That being said, the rest of the month is insane. So let's take a look at it real quick. So again, we've already had the games with the Phillies. We split that 1-1. Now we're starting a 4-day series with the Mets, but it's actually 5 games. August 6th is highlighted in yellow there. Yeah, that's a doubleheader. But we also have a doubleheader the next Sunday on the 13th, or next Saturday on the 13th. So that's just something to keep in mind. We have a gauntlet of a schedule in August. You got 9 games with the Mets, including that doubleheader. You have 2 with the Phillies that we've already played, and then you have a World Series matchup with the Astros and the Cardinals later in the month. So it's going to be exciting, don't get me wrong, but it's going to be hectic for the Braves, which is why just another reason I think this Odorizzi signing was a good move, because a lot of people are looking at our rotation right now, like, why do we need 6 starters, with the inclusion of Ian Anderson? A lot of people immediately assume that this would be, the move that sends Ian Anderson down to Gwinnett, and it very well still could be later on in the year, but I think for August alone, I think it is smart to have 6 starters. I think it is smart to do that because you get to keep everybody on the same rest. No matter who is number 6, it doesn't really matter, at least for the next 2 weeks. You get past those double headers and you move on into, regular territory. I think it's, you're golden after that. But, this is going to be a difficult schedule. The Braves really just need to keep pace with the Mets during the month of August. And to be honest with you, that's going to be difficult considering you have 9 games with them. Those are key games, I think, that could have, consequences for the rest of the year. These are big series, and they mean an awful lot. Now, that's no secret. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, but it is ideal that they win most of those games, if not at least split them evenly. If they can get like a 5-4, that would be minimally what they would want. But it would be awesome if they went on a tear through the month of August, because once you get to September, I think you have an easier road. I think it's pretty obvious. You start out with 1 game against the Rockies, and then you got a series with Miami, Oakland. The Mariners are competing, but and the Giants are too, but all of those are winnable series. Right? You're talking about the Rockies, who haven't really performed this year. Miami, who is below us in the standings by a lot. Oakland, who we don't even want to go there. And again, the Mariners and Giants are competing, but those are all very winnable games. But this stretch right here, this last half of the month, this is what I would consider the most important regular season stretch. Because you have, about 8 games or 7 games with the Phillies, 6 games with the Nationals. All of the games with the Nationals, you have got to at least be competitive in. I would consider those must-win games. I would consider the Phillies series must-win. It would be nice if you can rattle off 3 in a row and then 4 in a row. That would be amazing to cap off the season. And then you start October. You have 4 games left after this point, and you start October going against the Mets, which again will be a very big series. But this, to me, looking forward as we're winding the season down, this right here is when the Braves really have to capitalize. But again, that's just the schedule. That's just on paper. That's just what I think is trending right now. The way the Braves are going, this is what I think is trending. Now, that's not to say that's how it's going to go. The Braves could absolutely make a tear through August and then in September be up 5 games. Who really knows what's going to happen? But I'm telling you, I think September is one of the most important months of the season. I think August is going to be one of the most difficult. But if the Braves can get through August, where they are right now, September will be right around the time where they can swoop up and grab first place. Now, that being said, it's not always how it goes, but I think it'll be fun to watch. All right, so the Braves are gearing up with the Mets right now. They're gearing up to play around 7:10 for the next hour, and I guess about 5 minutes, I am yours. I will be here until 7 o'clock. I'm going to answer as many questions as I can, but if you will do me a favor just to support the channel, I would appreciate it. Make sure to hit the like button. Subscribe if you're new. Hit the bell for notifications. We try to bring you good content, consistent content, and you guys have been so active here lately, so it would really help me out a lot if you would like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for notifications. I do appreciate it. A lot of you guys are regular supporters. I'm seeing some regular names in the chat, so that always makes the chat a little bit better. Chris Fields was in the chat early tonight. He said, Tyler, what's up? Are you ready for the stretch run? I am ready again for this stretch run. But I'm also ready to see the Braves versus the Mets. A doubleheader on Saturday, which means I will be spending most of the day in front of the TV, one way or the other. So it's going to be a lot of fun. The second half of baseball is always a little bit better than the first to me. But yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Carlos Rubin in the chat, he says hello. Thank you for that. William Fulgham says, we got a big series. Let's go. Chris Fields says, go Braves. A lot of guys are active in the chat, obviously with a big series ahead. I mean, that's a given. Dale Thompson, Mets at nothing. Oh, sorry, that's slang I'm not familiar with. Jorge says, what's up, Tyler? We need to win this series. I agree with you, and to be honest with you, as I've talked a lot about this stretch right here, this August stretch, but I think one of the biggest keys for me, as I'm looking at it, is Jake Odorizzi. And you're probably going, yeah, I mean, it's a new starter we got, but I mean, it's not like his stats jump off the page. That's not the point. The fact that you have 6 starters that can win games, give you a chance to win games, and I know Ian has had his ups and downs, but he can give you a chance to win games. The fact that you're going to go into this series, and given that they have Jacob deGrom back, I think this is just as important as ever. But you go into this series with 6 solid starters that I think could all make an impact. Obviously, Max Fried, Kyle Wright are both obviously going to give you chances to win. Spencer Strider, who I thought it was interesting the other day, Alex Anthopoulos, hearing from him right after the trade deadline, being in the booth, probably hasn't slept in 3 days prior to that point. But to hear from him directly say that we don't believe in inning limit per season, that's not how the Braves work. For one, that's a Leo Mazzoni mindset, which I appreciate, but it's also good to hear that we're not going to see Spencer Strider in the bullpen. That is not the intention. Now, if it gets to that, if he struggles, then you might see something different. But to hear that the Braves have no intention of bringing him to the bullpen, I think says a lot about where the Braves are thinking, for one, of his future, but also going into the rest of the season. They want to prioritize starting, and I don't blame them. They did pick up a big bullpen piece in Raisel Iglesias, and a lot of people are looking at that 4 ERA. I was looking at that 4 ERA because all we can look at when we get a new acquisition really is, the numbers on the page. It's not always necessarily what is reflective of him. The dude throws hard, which I think is something missing out of the pen. I think it is going to help out with that. It's not going to be perfect, but I do like the Raisel Iglesias pickup, and I do think the bullpen is going to improve. especially considering you have Kirby Yates, who's expected to be up in the next couple of weeks, which would be right on time for that second Mets series if you can get him up in time. But you also, you have the potential of Mike Soroka at some point. Now, we don't know when. It could be, it could be, at no particular time during the season. It could be, it could be so far beyond our realm that it doesn't even make an impact in the season. But just to have the idea of him coming back, I think he might have some time in the pen. Take it slow, get back on, and get in there just to have some innings in 2022. Maybe contribute in the postseason if need be in long relief. But I think that is something to keep note of. We have some super chats, so I wanted to let me acknowledge those. Oren Griswold, I appreciate it, man. Good to hear from you. Jonathan Collins, thanks for tuning in, buddy. How do I feel about tonight's game? I'm going to say I feel pretty good. I'm excited about it. I think, I'm more excited about the series as a whole because, we're talking about the Braves and Mets. They're the team that I think, they're the teams that are obviously leading the National League East and probably will be for the rest of the year, but they're the teams that I think are the most competitive two teams within a division outside of possibly the Dodgers and LA, but we haven't quite seen that up until this point. But after the All-Star break, or after the trade deadline, they may be. But right now, I think the Braves and the Dodgers are some of the most, consistently competitive teams and year to year, and I think it'll be fun to watch. Oren Griswold says, who's odd man out when Soroka returns? I don't know if there is an odd man out, because to be honest with you, when we got Odorizzi, I thought that, we would have an odd man out. Somebody's got to move. And that's kind of why I didn't think we would go for a starter, because I didn't see the Braves, saying, all right, we've lost faith in Ian Anderson, or I just didn't see it. That's not how they typically work. They usually give the guy a longer rope historically. But that being said, when they did, it's like, okay, well, who's going out? What are we doing here? Because we got to fix the pin, right? And I think as fans, and I'm no different than you. I'm a fan as well. As fans, we sometimes play GM a little too hard and don't realize those guys know what they're doing. But also the fact that last year, and I talk about last year's trade deadline a lot because it was successful, but the pin itself, I thought for sure we're going to go get 2 or 3 bullpen arms because our pin has been, treacherous all year long. And then we got Richard Rodriguez, and that was it. Same principle this year. They played it in a very similar way, but at the same time, you're expecting to get Matzik back at full strength at some point, right? You're expecting to get Kirby Yates, who might contribute. I mentioned Mike Soroka. When Mike Soroka returns, I don't know that he's necessarily a starter yet. And, that might be why they got Jake Odorizzi as well. They probably have some indication that Soroka could just be a bullpen arm this year. And I'm not saying that's going to happen. We don't know. But I think it's good to have depth. It's good to have options. So if I'm picking an odd man out, let's just theoretically say that Soroka came back and was pitching, at an ace level, which I think is unlikely, being that he's been gone almost 2 years. But let's just say that were to happen. I think Ian Anderson statistically is the obvious answer. But then again, his last start was pretty good. So it's not necessarily a given. But we'll have to just play it out. We'll look at it day by day. I think Soroka could be a bullpen piece because, for one, he's right-handed, which the Braves do lack. And it's not even a given that he's going to perform this year. They've been very quiet on his timetable. So it's just something to keep in mind. Unfortunately, I don't know all the answers, but I hope I gave you some kind of context. By the way, thanks for those super chats. Super chats are how you get your questions answered immediately. And guys, we are on a timetable. I will be here till 7. I'm going to answer as many as I can. But thank you to Oren Griswold and Jonathan Collins for the super chats. Those are always appreciated. But if you don't want to super chat, what you can do to support the channel doesn't cost a dime. Like the video. That always helps me out a ton. Truly it does. And it gets the video to a broader audience, which is the goal, right? That is the goal. Thank you for that. Let's see. Jameson Taylor says, we better beat the Mets tonight. Yeah, we better. Lori Lee says, go Braves. Thank you very much. Jorge says, it would be ideal to pass the Mets this month in August. The Mets have a September with a lot of 500 teams or sub 500 teams. My mistake. Sure. I haven't looked at their this month, to tell you the truth. I haven't had a chance to really look at it. What I will say is that the Braves do have a tough schedule, but there are winnable games in the month of August. I thought last night was a very winnable game, and obviously late in the game it didn't go our way. But I thought both of those Phillies games were very winnable, especially after Charlie Morton threw 6 innings scoreless. But the Mets games are going to be tough, and I could be wrong. But you never know how a game's really going to go day to day. But you expect that the Mets series will be tough, and they should be tough. That being said, Miami, very winnable. The Astros are a very good team, but the Pirates are winnable games. I think St. Louis are winnable games, even though they are competing, which they are. And again, you finish off the month with a very, with a winnable series with the Rockies stretching into September. And, September is really where I think they're going to have to take advantage. And it's primarily in that last stretch. I just think that's where, I would prefer to end the season like this, which they pretty much do. After this, I believe they have another 2 games with the Mets, and maybe even just 1. But they have another game with the Mets at least in October, and then they go to Seattle. I would much rather the Braves do something like this at the end of the season than finish off like this to end the season. So that's good. That works in the Braves' favor. But, we'll see. We do have some good news, according to the Twitterverse. Ozzy Albies did play catch yesterday. He will start accelerating baseball activities over the next few weeks. So that's some good news. That's the first we've really heard about Ozzy in some time, other than him wearing a boot around the All-Star break, I guess. But that's the last thing we've really heard on Ozzy Albies. So good to hear that. Good to hear that he's on his way back. And there's definitely a hole there at second base with him gone, even though Arcia has been great. He hit the 1 home run that was the only run yesterday. So he's, a lot of people don't really give Arcia the credit I think he deserves. I think he's been a really good fill-in, as best as he could do. It's better than expected, I would think, because even the Braves were a little unsure. They went and got insurance in Robinson Cano, and he outdid Robinson Cano. And I think we need to appreciate Arcia for what he's been able to do. He's had games where, he's had a lot of games here lately where he's homered. So I just think it's something to take note of. But excited to know that Ozzy Albies is on his way back, hopefully. Hayden, good to hear from you. Let's get this win tonight in New York. I appreciate that, man. Mark Perez says, with the trade for Iglesias, do you think he will be the closer the next 3 years and potentially let Jansen walk? Let Jansen walk is a bit subjective because at the end of the season, I don't know if you necessarily let him walk other than they're going to let him finish out his contract. They're paying him way too much, in my opinion, to just let him walk. Sorry about that, guys. Technical difficulties. Not to say that, Kenley, his contract is a bad deal, because I don't believe it is. Sorry about that, guy. I don't know what is going on right now. But yeah, I don't think the Kenley deal is necessarily something bad. I do think it is, especially coming into the season, I didn't think it was a bad deal at all. But I believe we're paying him around $18 million. And with that, again, it's not a bad deal, but you do begin to question, do we want to pay that next year? And it may be that you bring Kenley back next year on another 1-year deal for less money, right? So it's not necessarily letting him walk, but you could change his role. That's what they tried to do with Will Smith before they traded him. They changed his role. Alex Anthopoulos called in at the beginning of the season saying, hey, we have a chance to get Kenley Jansen. Are you okay with making him the closer? Will Smith agreed, and they tried to find a role for him. Unfortunately, he ended up finding that in Houston. But regardless, I don't know if you necessarily, quote-unquote, let him walk. I think it's more so you might find, if you want to re-sign him, which they may not with all the health scares and everything, but if you want to re-sign him, maybe he pitches the 7th inning, right? There's always options for bullpen pieces to do a lot of different things. I think it's great that you have, one, Kenley Jansen, a certified closer, Kirby Yates on the way back, certified closer, now Raisel Iglesias, who, again, certified closer, and I would say Tyler Matzik is in that same ballpark. He's never really been a closer, but he's such a good relief arm that he could be on a lot of different teams. So, I look at that and I say, okay, this bullpen is not a bad bullpen. Sometimes they just have bad days. And last night was one of those bad days. Nick Castellanos came in clutch for the Phillies. But, yeah, I don't think we let him walk necessarily, depending on what the contract deal is, but we have every right to if we would like. William Fulgham says, don't see us picking up Morton's $20 million option next year, so our payroll will be around $150 million so we can make big moves. Future is bright. Well, a few of those big moves is going to be within because you have Max Fried, who's yet to be re-signed. You have Dansby Swanson, who's yet to be re-signed. Mike Soroka, who probably won't cost that much because he's been hurt so long, but he, I believe, is still unsigned. So as many people as we do have locked up, there are guys out there that aren't. To tell you the truth, I look at Michael Harris and say, do I not want to lock up this kid in an Acuna style deal where we may not be able to sign him as cheap as that in the next few years? Do we want to do that? I thought it was great to see Austin Riley get re-signed and that type of thing. But I think there's some moves like that. But Charlie Morton has played a very important role as the veteran. Even when he struggles, he's been solid. And I'm not going to say that, Charlie Morton's not going to be back next year. The $20 million, they may not pick up the $20 million option, but they may say, hey, Charlie, we're not going to pick that up, but we may give you another deal for less money, right? There's always that option. And with an aging Charlie Morton, he may take it to get a chance to get another ring and still compete. But, we'll see at the end of the year. That's all we can really do. Yasuki Knight tunes in. He says the Braves got to win some of these games versus the Mets. I appreciate it. Jamison Taylor says Spencer Strider was awesome. He has been all year. With all those strikeouts and his new career high. Yeah, that was good to see. And it was the same night, if I'm not mistaken, as what I was talking about earlier with Anthopoulos in the booth going, yeah, this guy's going to be a starter. Well, yeah, when he throws 6 innings with 13, 14 strikeouts, he should be a starter. So, yeah, it's good to see. Coach KD says, what's up, Tyler? You're the man. I appreciate it. That's why I got a title belt. Do you believe we will take this series? He is referring to the Mets series starting on the 4th there. It's going to be tough. I think, if we can win tonight, we're obviously favored, so that's a big point. It's hard to say day to day and hard to say series to series. I mean, you're talking about really good competition. I think Spencer Strider and DeGrom are pitching in one of the games on Saturday. But I look at that and I say, look, if, we can get a couple of big wins, that doubleheader is going to be a big point because if we can rattle off 2 wins there, in one day, that's huge. That could flip the standings, right? So, I look at that and say, well, maybe. But yeah, I think it's important that we do. It says there's 4 days right there, but it's really 5 games. If we can get 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 5, that's key. And if we can win 2 games on Saturday, I think you set yourself up for a lot of success on that day alone. But we'll see how tonight goes and go from there. But I appreciate you, Coach KD, tuning in. He says also that he likes Strider as a starter. I do too. I think that guy is phenomenal. And to be honest with you, earlier in the season, I was like, no, I think he's going to be bullpen at least for this year because he is so young. He does throw as hard as anybody in the major leagues. And, I really thought that was going to be his strength. I like what Chip Carey says about him, that he looks like Billy Wagner and throws like Kerry Wood. I like that a lot. But that being said, you're talking about 1 relief arm and 1 starting arm. So I think it's, Spencer Strider's got a long career ahead of him. It may eventually see bullpen because he does throw so hard, wear and tear on the arm. But I like the fact that the Braves, frankly, I like the fact that they still hold on to those Leo Mazzoni mentalities, and they don't believe in innings, and they don't believe, inning limit over a season, maybe in a day, but over a season, I like that. And Strider has not looked fazed by any of it. He hasn't looked fazed by any of the attention, any of the pressure, and I think that says a lot about him. But we'll see. Keith tunes in. He said he's putting up praise hands. I appreciate that. Jorge, thank you for that super chat. I'm just now seeing it. I apologize. He says, I don't think Fried would take a hometown discount. It's funny you bring that up. I was actually talking to somebody about this in the comment section earlier. Jorge says that I don't think Fried would take a hometown discount. He may not, but I don't think he's going to go for Garrett Cole type money. I don't think you're going to see that. He's great, but I just don't think he's going to try to do that. Now, he could. The Dodgers would probably pay him. But at the same time, I think, the fact that you're competing in Atlanta, it's appealing to be in Atlanta. You're the face of the franchise in the starting pitching category right now. I think that's a little bit more appealing than going back to L.A. And look, there's the L.A. connection there. Like, it's there. He modeled himself after Sandy Koufax. He's from San Diego. There's always that, appeal there. But I think, again, being number one on a team as opposed to, when I look at that LA starting rotation, you got Clayton Kershaw, who is unanimously the number one, even if he throws, for a 5 ERA 1 year. He's a Hall of Famer, right? I look at Walker Buehler, who is essentially Max Fried, version 2 for the Dodgers. He's there. He came through the organization. He grew up in the organization. I think Fried would probably prefer to stay in Atlanta. Now, I don't know the guy. I can't vouch for that, but that's kind of how I feel right now. And if it's me in that spot, which, you throw millions of dollars at somebody, attitudes change. But I look at that and I go, well, if it's me, I would prefer to be the guy on the team, carry the team, win with this team. Much like, I think that's part of Riley's mentality is that I don't want to go anywhere else. This is where I want to be. The Chipper Jones mentality, similar. But I think, that option's there for him. Any player that wants to go to free agency can do it. Juan Soto decided that, he wasn't going to take $440 million. He was going to risk it and go to free agency and see what he could get. He'll probably get a haul. He got a haul and just a prospect package sent back for him. So that being said, there's always that risk, and it's all about what he wants in that. So we'll see. But if the Braves can get it locked up, that'll be exciting. Ronnie tunes in and says, Ronald Acuna needs to break out in Game 1 tonight. Riley MVP chatter moving outside of Braves country. This 5-game stretch could be huge for him in the MVP race. Yeah, I agree with you. We talked a lot about, we've talked a lot about Riley in the past few days because he signed that big extension, so rightfully so. Riley's a guy that, if you've watched this channel for a long time, I've had him picked out even as a prospect, that this guy was going to be a big deal, and glad we were on that early. But yeah, the MVP chatter should have been happening last year. The guy has been the most consistent hitter across 2 years for the Braves, I think, than anybody else. And I think that's a big reason as to why he got this big extension. And, I think the MVP chatter is correct. I think it needs to happen, and I think Braves country is definitely going to support him there. I thought it was crazy how far down in the MVP voting he was last year, mainly because his name was not as well known as, the Bryce Harpers and the Paul Goldschmidts. And, there was a couple guys, I can't tell you specifically who they were right now, but there were a couple guys, it's like, look, guys, it's not even close. Why is he this far down? I want to say he was like number 10 in MVP voting, maybe even further down than that. But he shouldn't have been that far down. So I'm glad that he's starting to get, the respect he deserves. MLB Network has done 4 or 5 different segments on him, on his swing and that kind of thing. He's getting the attention, and this series could be huge. This month could be huge. Everybody's been talking about the month of July for Austin Riley, and rightfully so. But this month could be huge for him if he can get some key moments and some key games. Yeah, I think this month could be big too, especially with 9 games versus the Mets in August, and you cap off the end of the month in September against the Mets as well. But there's a lot of division games in September. But we'll see how it goes. I think if Riley continues to play like he did in July, then I don't think there's any question who the MVP is at that point. Brett Walters says, did I see the news on Soroka? He is about to do simulated games. I don't know if he will pitch for the big club this year, but it's good news. Yeah, anytime you get like a developmental news on an injury, I mentioned Ozzy Albies earlier, he's moving towards baseball activities. It's not ever really that specific. A lot of these guys, play hurt sometimes. With Soroka, I think if we get anything out of him this year, we just need to be happy with it. We need to be content with it. And, it could just be some innings, right? It may not even be any crucial innings. But that being said, with Soroka, I don't want to rush him back because I don't want to go another year without Soroka and then start questioning, all right, is he ever coming back? He's already torn his Achilles, retore his Achilles, got hit in the knee with a ball. There's just a lot there. I don't want to rush him back. I'm glad that he's about to do some simulated games. He's definitely moving in the right direction. We'll see what he can do. We'll see what he can do this year. But I try to focus more so on the guys that we do have at the major league level right now. And I hate to say that, but it's true because that's what we have to work with. Soroka, if he can come back this year, and if it's nothing else but being in the pen, I think that's phenomenal because we haven't seen this guy in 2 years. And he may start out in the pen, evolve into a starter. I think it's going to be kind of tough for him to be a starter because he's coming back from such an injury. And because we have a 6-man rotation, I think it's kind of unlikely. That's why I'm saying maybe the pen. But again, we don't know if he's coming back at all. So it'll be interesting to see. But again, Soroka's, one of those guys that if it ended tomorrow, it's going to be what could have been. So hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully he comes back and has a great career. Shadow Grace says Jansen might retire at the end of the year depending on his heart. That's scary stuff. Yeah, he may. And look, I mean, Jansen's got some good numbers, some really good numbers for a career. That being said, he may do it. I don't know, but I don't think he's going to make the money he did this year based on what he did this year, or this upcoming year based on what he did this season. I just don't think so. Bruce Taylor says we gotta pay Dansby. Must have this player. I would agree with you, but I really hope that Dansby Swanson decides to. I really hope he decides to get a hometown discount because if he doesn't, then I begin to question. I just begin to question not his loyalty necessarily, but I begin to question whether or not we really want to do that or go for someone else. Because if we're going to pay him big money, I feel like there's other players we can get. He's played great this year, but it's this year. What's he going to do in the future, right? You don't want to give the bank out for, you got to allot it. And we'll see what happens, And look, if we had re-signed Freddie, I might feel differently. I'm pretty sure we're going to get Dansby back. But I was for certain that we were going to get Freddie back. So just, we'll see what happens. That's the best we can really do. But I agree with you. I think he's definitely a must-have. I was hoping we would sign him before the trade deadline so that we can shop some of our shortstop prospects and maybe get a big return. I said that over the trade deadline videos because you got Vaughn Grissom, who's in Double-A. You got Braden Shoemake, who's in Triple-A. I sit here and I wonder, if we could have locked up Dansby, could one of those guys be traded? Because Vaughn Grissom is trending in all the right directions. He's getting the Michael Harris treatment in the minors where everybody's talking about him. And that's a good thing. Braden Shoemake is solid, but if you're going to pick one or the other, who's it going to be? If we locked up Dansby, you could trade Shoemake, and maybe have Vaughn in a few years if the deal is 3 to 4 years. But we haven't yet, and I'm a little surprised by that. You never know where the Braves' heads are at. They may decide, we don't need Dansby, to be successful. I hope that's not the case, but we will see. The Mad Monk says, I would say yes on Harris. They should do that now on locking him up. I agree with you because you give him another year or two and he starts, and he hits like he's been doing this year, you may not be able to lock him up for less than what you're paying Acuna. So, yeah, I think so, too. They got a steal on Acuna, an even bigger steal on Ozzy Albies, $35 million for 7 years. If they could get that locked up, that would be phenomenal, and you'd have a lot of guys locked up for a lot of time. So we'll see. Buddy Yoda says, who should Braves sign to long-term deals? I just mentioned one. Michael Harris, Max Fried, Michael Harris, Dansby if you can do it. Outside of that, we got everybody locked up, Contreras, if he hasn't been already. I don't believe he has. But you got Riley locked up. I thought that was priority. I'm glad that got done. But free Contreras, Dansby, and Michael Harris would be the guys that I'm prioritizing at this point. Bruce Taylor says, I'm hoping Riley turns out to be a Mets killer. Killing the Mets made Chipper Jones the MVP. It could happen tonight. Not to say it will, but it certainly could happen. We're going to have to wait and see on that. But it would be exciting if he was able to do that and be that type of player that can come in and just kill a team. I think Acuna has that ability when it comes to the Marlins, which I think a lot of people tend to overlook. It's not quite as well known as Chipper and shouldn't be, but I do think Acuna has that ability to walk into the Marlins park and say, "All right, I'm having fun today, and y'all are gonna pay the price." So it's just Riley. I think Riley's good against everybody. I don't think he has a specific team that he's great against. I think Riley's just a consistent hitter, and he damages the baseball. A lot of you guys are tuning in tonight. I appreciate it. Again, do me a favor. A lot of you guys are joining in late. I don't mind at all. But do me a favor. Hit the like button. That is the most important thing you can do for me is hit the like button. It helps me out tremendously because that is what basically sets the algorithm to get this out there. So if you like the content, make sure to like it. I do appreciate it. And you can also subscribe if you are new. Let's see. Jameson Taylor says, I just hope Kyle Wright can win this game tonight. Look, guys, if there's one guy based on this year that I want on the mound, Kyle is that guy. It's not so much the pitching that I'm worried about. It's a mixture. It's it's a lot more than the starting pitcher. The key to the game to me is the starting pitcher, but there's still, if he goes 6 innings, there's still 3 innings where that other team can do damage. We saw that last night, so we will see. A lot of people are talking about how great Riley can be. If he can do damage against the Mets, then yeah. Chris Kaysen says, I personally don't think the Mets lineup is that deep as the Braves lineup is what I call deep. I don't see the Mets holding up myself personally. I don't either. I think they have some good players. I don't think it's as deep as the Braves. I think the Mets always have a way of crashing in the second half of the season. But beyond that, I don't think they're as deep, and I'll tell you why. Because they didn't raise most of these players. Francisco Lindor came from Cleveland. Pete Alonso's a Met, but a lot of the guys they have aren't guys that they raised up from the gutter. They never had a time where they rebuilt. The Braves did, and the Braves are seeing rewards for that in Austin Riley, in Ronald Acuna, in Ozzie Albies, Max Fried. They rebuilt. A lot of those guys were directly resulted from deals the Braves made in rebuilding. I want to say we got Max Fried in a trade for B.J. Upton and Craig Kimbrell. I want to say we in that same deal possibly it might have been Shelby Miller. I think Shelby Miller got us Dansby Swanson. But I also think Austin Riley was in that Max Fried deal as a draft pick, and that draft pick became Austin Riley. So because the Braves rebuilt, they've been able to not only have these guys, but also keep these guys in the organization because they've been playing together for years now, and that means something, so we'll see. But yeah, I think that's why. I think the Mets tried to circumvent that by paying a lot of guys like Francisco Lindor, but I mean, when I think of the Mets, there's one guy that really comes to mind, and it's Pete Alonso. I mean, there's Jacob deGrom on the pitching side of things, but you're talking about the lineup. When I think of the lineup, the only guy that comes to mind for me that is any kind of real threat is Pete Alonso. Now, Daniel Vogelbach hit a grand slam yesterday. Anybody can be a threat, but when I think of a consistent threat, there's Lindor, but when you put the Mets lineup against the Braves lineup, they have their guys. I like Jeff McNeil. But ultimately, I look at that and go, well, if I'm putting one against the other, I'll take the Braves in that category on any given day. But, it's not every day. William Matson says, I think if the Braves take this series, they will take off. I do wonder if Double A will lock up Fried and Dansby in the offseason. Also, I think Tyler Matzik is getting ready to hit his stride. I agree with you on the Matzik thing. They do need to lock up Freed. Dansby in the offseason, you're messing with some risky business at that point because, again, we saw what can happen at the when you hit that point. I do think that Freddie, with what happened with Freddie, probably showed Dansby, okay, I don't need to do that, right? So we'll see what happens. He may elect to just go to free agency, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we'll have to see how it goes. I hope that's not the case. He's from Atlanta. He's from Marietta. I hope he decides to stay there. Bruce Taylor says Braves are deep and winning without Acuna, and hitting with Acuna not okay, and winning with Acuna not hitting. We can't beat the Mets, no doubt. If Acuna can break out, if Rosario can break out, and if Ozuna can break out, he had a good game the other day. Then I think that the team is complete. You don't need as good a bullpen. You don't need to go get a big bat. Those are the guys that you need to perform. Rosario is trending positively because he can see, and he's had time to really gear up again. I think Ozuna is starting to feel the pressure a little bit. He's starting to perform. Acuna is the most visually frustrated. I did a whole video on that. If you want to go check it out, you can. It's on the channel. But, I think if those guys can perform, then we're good. A lot of people are asking about Dansby tonight, and I get it. I think I'm going to have to hold off on answering that. I've answered it a few times already. And I'm not mad at you or anything, but I'm going to have to hold off because I simply don't know what's going to happen. We'll have to wait till the end of the year. What's going on, Jake? Sparrow Empire says, at what point do we worry about Acuna? I understand he's just a year removed from ACL surgery. Yes, but he is clearly terrified of playing hard in the field, and he's unable to elevate the ball at the plate. For one, I will say that we do know that they know that because we heard a whole segment the other day during the game where Kevin Seitzer is working with Acuna on elevating the ball. They see things mechanically that he's doing wrong, and I think ultimately everybody has slumps, right? It's going to happen. I think, I said this in that video, I think not having Ozzy Albies around is probably part of it, just on a mental thing, and I know... when I say that, I get comments all the time talking about, it shouldn't matter if they have Ozzy Albies or not. But it does. It just does. And, those two specifically are our best friends. I mean, you look at them at any given time during a game, they're next to each other, they're talking to each other, they're joking around. Ozzy does a good job at keeping Acuna loose. I don't think he has that otherwise. And if he does, it's not as good as Ozzy. So... we'll see what happens there. I think Acuna can play without Ozzy, but I do think that's somewhat part of it. And it's also just a slump. You mentioned coming off the ACL injury. That's part of it, I'm sure. And it's going to take time to come back from that. In terms of in the field, look, I'm going to be honest with you, and this isn't going to be a popular opinion, but I think I would rather him play cautiously if he's unsure as opposed to getting hurt again. Because I don't want to go another half season without Ronald Acuna. So, we'll see. But I understand why he's being cautious. I'll just leave it at that. Bombs Go Boom says Michael Harris. Oh, sorry. Says Michael Harris. Oh, I lost you. Sorry, guys. A lot of you guys are being active tonight. Do you think the Mets will... Oh, hang on a second. I'm still not there. If I could, all right. I had completely lost my place. Let me see. Here we go. Michael Harris was an absolute snipe. I'm so glad we have an incredible center fielder. Yeah, I mean, the dude's been great. Guillermo Heredia made a pretty good catch last night. But Michael Harris is good, and I think we're going to lock him up at some point or another on a long-term contract. But right now, I'm just enjoying watching him play. I mean, the dude's been an absolute stud. He's everything that he was... hyped up for, and that's been great. Steve Cash says Swanson has been solid, but only great this year, in my opinion. And I'm going to tell you why. Okay, you said he has been solid, but only great this year. He has been great this year. He's an all-star. He's been great this year because he's been able to be consistent. He's been able to do this on a daily basis, and he hasn't slumped. Great players don't slump. good players do. Dansby Swanson has been able to eliminate the streakiness that was his only setback. He's had the tools. He's been a decent hitter. He's been a decent fielder. He's been able to put it together all year long. Hopefully, that continues. But he's been able to lock in. I just don't want this to be one of those occasions where on a contract year a player plays phenomenally and then the moment he signs a big deal, he's right back to being on all the bad habits. That's the only concern I really have. Let's see. Oren Griswold says, might be thinking ahead a bit, but who do you think gets added when rosters expand? It's tough, right? I would assume pitching. I think you can cut. Rosters are expanding. There's nobody really, in the minors that I'm just really I want him up right now. To tell you the truth, we've lost that, intrigue because all those guys have really come up. But I would assume pitching. And you got Jake Odorizzi. Mike Soroka could be one of those guys, but there's nobody. Kyle Muller's hurt. Tucker Davidson just got traded. There's nobody that I'm looking at that going, yeah, those are the guys I want. You may see a Braden Shoemake. Somebody's going to come up, but I don't know who. You may see an extended bullpen. Right? Let's just say for my purpose in this moment, that Jackson Stevens was to get sent down when Yates comes back, right? Somebody's got to go. Let's just say that were to happen. You may see Jackson Stevens come back later in the year. Again, who knows? But they may be waiting for Yates to come up until, when rosters expand. But we'll have to wait on that. I think you would probably see an extended bullpen if they could do it. Bombs Go Boom says, do you think Acuna's cold streak has anything to do with Ozzy Albies? I just said this. But go check out the video. Go check out the video I did, Bombs Go Boom. I'm telling you, I got the stats. I got everything. Go check that video out. I think you'll really enjoy it. Chris Kaysen says he hit that like button, and that just reminds me to tell you again, hit the like button. Do me that favor. We only got a few more minutes. Let's get as many folks in as we can. If you want your question answered right now, the best way to do it is by super chatting. But also, if you just want to support me, I really do appreciate it. Make sure to like the video, hit the bell for notifications, all that good stuff. It really does help the channel out, and it is basically everything we do here is to get views and to get likes. That's the goal. So if you could do me that favor, I would appreciate it. Thank you. Panther says, who are they sending down for Yates? I'm going to be honest with you. I know he played yesterday, but I start to look at... it's tough, right? Because there's nobody in the pen that really stands out. It's really tough. I don't know. I think it'll probably be temporary. Whoever gets sent down will probably be brought back. I mentioned Jackson Stevens. That was just a name I threw out there. But there's just nobody in the pen right now that I'm going, that guy needs to go. So we'll see. And credit to the Braves pen because, early in the year, I'm going to show you this graphic. Early in the year, we expected the pen to look completely different. Absolutely completely different. And look at how many faces are in here that aren't on the team anymore. This was at the beginning of the year. This is a graphic I made at the very beginning of the year. Just left to right for a second. We haven't seen Kirby Yates yet. Luke Jackson's been gone all year. Colin McHugh is still around. AJ Minter's still around. Tyler Matzik is back, but he has spent so much time gone. Will Smith just got traded to the Astros, and Kenley Jansen has been on and off in terms of being on the roster. So, you've seen a lot of injuries, and I think because of that, you have to give credit to what the pen is. You have to give credit to the guys like Jackson Stevens who have been able to come in and give long relief innings. I don't see an obvious choice because there's no bad choice anymore. There's nobody that's just not performing. So I really don't have an answer for you. I wish I did on who we're going to get out of there. But what I will say is that, whatever it is, we can only improve, I guess. But I just don't see an obvious choice there. I wish I did. So whenever it happens, we'll see. Sparrow Empire, how do you feel about the Iglesias deal? Seems out of character for Alex. Personally, I'm not a fan. But in Alex, we trust. So I talked about this a little bit earlier. You're right. In Alex, we do trust because I think he is probably the best GM in baseball right now, and I don't think it's a question. The trade deadline last year, the Riley extent. I mean, I've seen it for years. We were really on that early, on the Anthopoulos train early, because I knew that dude's decisions. I just agreed with him, and that's not everything. My agreement with his decisions is not everything, but every move he has ever made has made sense. I'm not saying they've all panned out, but they made sense. Even in the early days, 2020, we'll go back all the way there. Tommy Malone and Robbie Erlin, okay? You remember those moves? Everybody hated them because those guys did not light up the page. They didn't light up the mound. They didn't even hang around for longer than like 2 or 3 weeks in 2020. But they made sense based on the market. The market wasn't going to trade starting pitchers, right? At that time, everybody had a chance to win in 2020, even the bad teams. I think the Marlins made it to the postseason in 2020, right? Because they had good pitching. So nobody was in the mood to trade or in the mindset to trade starting pitchers. So you saw those guys come in. But as much as we didn't like those moves, it's not like we didn't understand why they were happening. 2021 happens. We have a great trade deadline that leads to a great postseason run and a World Series. And now you have a trade deadline that, it's not as good as last year, but it made good moves. It made the right kind of moves. And everything at the deadline this year, to me, made sense, right? We talked about Odorizzi earlier. That made sense, and to be honest with you, I didn't think we'd go for a starter. But as time ticked on, I wonder if, all right, we can't go get a big reliever package. There's not a lot out there that we can go get because they want too much. But we can get Jake Odorizzi for Will Smith, and Will Smith hasn't performed that great this year. So maybe we should do this. And at the end of the day, pitching is pitching. So I'd rather have this guy on the roster, and we'll figure out who's bullpen, who's starter later. That's a smart move. Beyond that, Robbie Grossman. A lot of people were like, why are we going to get this guy? He had us a 205 average. What are we doing? I understood it at the time because I thought it made a lot of sense. Because he's killing lefties, you can platoon him with Rosario in left field. I would have liked to have seen Ian Happ. I think we all remember that. I still think that was in the plan. But the Cubs said no. So, the Cubs probably wanted a huge package for him. Same with Wilson Contreras, who we were never going for anyway. But that's the kind of thing that happens. And late, they got the Raisel Iglesias deal done with like 2 minutes to spare. So that tells me, okay, they went after other bullpen pieces. They didn't go immediately after Raisel Iglesias. They went in the market looking. Right? Anthony Bass got traded. We had him picked out as a Braves target. David Robertson got traded to the Phillies. We had him picked out as a target as well. I'm sure the Braves were in those conversations. I'm sure of it. And, because of that, I think as time went on, they probably, if they went and got Odorizzi, I'm sure they were in talks with Noah Syndergaard. We got those reports. That came out. We were in talks with Noah Syndergaard. I'm sure in those talks with the Angels, that was probably, okay, well, if I can't get Syndergaard, give me your best reliever. We need help in the pen. Or give me your best right-handed reliever, whatever the case may be. And I'm sure that's kind of how it went down. But it's not guaranteed that that's how it went down. But that's how I assume it went down. I think Alex did the best he could with what he had. Every team has a different budget, whether it be a budget of money, a budget of prospects. They have what they can do with what they are given. Alex Anthopoulos has taken what he's been given over the past few years and made a World Series out of it, made a competitive team out of it. Now, 4 times division, championships with a competitive division. So I think it says something about that. And in terms of the Iglesias deal, because I know I went a little off track here, but in terms of the Iglesias deal, I actually really like it. And it's, everybody's going to look up the Baseball Reference and go, well, he's got a 4.04 ERA. Career-wise, that's not, who he is. He's more of a 2.75 ERA, maybe even lower than that. But Iglesias throws hard, which is something that we don't have a ton of in our pen. A.J. Minter can get up there. Tyler Matzik can when he's at full strength. But, a lot of our guys don't throw hard. And, even Kenley Jansen throws hard. But, we were also very lefty-heavy at the time, and we definitely needed a change in pace. I think Raisel Iglesias is a shot in the arm that we didn't have otherwise. And, again, in Alex Anthopoulos we trust, but it is what it is. Again, guys, we are running out of time. We got about 15 minutes before I'm getting up here. So make sure if you want your question answered, get it in the chat. I'm going to have to skip ahead a little bit so I can get as many of you guys as I can. Let's see. Mark Narmore says Acuna has me very concerned. I think he's going to break out of it. You're talking about a phenom, a young phenom. I think he's going to break out of it. We'll see. Corey Carter gets in the chat. He's going to try to make me laugh. He says, Tyler, can you start over? I just got here. The replays stay on the channel. They do. But no, I can't start over. I only got 15 minutes before I got to get off of here. Let's see. Maverick says, if the Mets put in left-hand pitcher, I'd put Grossman in 6th spot, move Ozuna 7th spot, Dansby into leadoff, and put Acuna to 2nd. Possibly. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at who's pitching for them tonight. I haven't had a chance. Grossman is a definite, against lefty pitching. I think he's got like a 364 average against lefties. He's been absolutely killing lefties this year. So, yeah, he's the guy you want in that spot, and that's the idea, right? He's an Adam Duvall replacement. Adam Duvall was platooning with Eddie Rosario. And I'm not saying he's going to put up the numbers like Adam Duvall. He's not going to put up the home run numbers. But if he can hit lefties at a 360 average, then, maybe he deserves a shot. But we'll see how it goes. It could be completely different in the second half. Yeah, Richard Davis says whoever they send down will be coming back in September. That is in relation to you guys asking me who's going to get sent down. I don't think it much matters because they're coming back a month later. So that's all I can really say. But yeah, if it is Jackson Stevens, if it is some of those other guys lower in the pen, they're coming back. But they may wait to bring Kirby Yates up in September. They may wait to do that. But if he's healthy, I think you got to bring him up. I mean, you're talking about Kirby Yates here. But we'll see. Oren Griswold says, I think moving Acuna down in the lineup is starting to make more sense the more he struggles, but hopefully he breaks out this series. He's hits New York pretty well. Hopefully. We'll see. That's all we can really do is watch. Let me see. THP Knob, I hope I got your name right, says getting a starter, and he's referring to Odorizzi here, getting a starter helps limit Strider's innings. And that may be true, but we talked earlier, Anthopoulos came out the other night and basically said that the Braves don't believe in limiting a starter in terms of a season. So, we'll see. I'm seeing questions about Soroka being done, ? No. He is still recovering. He is on his way back. All right, Carrasco's pitching tonight. I think we do hit him okay. He's a good pitcher, but I do think that he's hittable. So we will see. Trying to answer as many of you guys that are actually asking questions as I can. I do appreciate the thumbs up. So give me a like button. Hit that like button if you can. It does get to more guys out there. Hit the like button, Braves Country. That is in the chat from Steve Cash. Appreciate that. I really do. It really helps. And it may not exactly help in the live video, but it always helps later on. It always, the views I get later, it really does help. So hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. I do appreciate it. We do a lot of content here. It really does. It really does help. And it really, we have a ton of content. We have interviews with Braves players occasionally. We just interviewed a guy, and I'm going to talk about him because I think this is a great interview. We just interviewed this guy, and this is not a name most of you are going to know yet, but you're going to know him in the future. Cole Phillips, 2nd-round pick by the Braves this year. He is out of Bernie, Texas. He's 6'3", he's 19 years old, and he can throw 100 miles an hour. I'm telling you, you're going to know about this kid later. And we got an interview with him early on in his career. It is on the channel right now. It's one of the recent videos. I suggest you go check it out. It's one of my favorite interviews. Some of the quotes he has are great, especially for a 19-year-old. But he is a guy that has got a great attitude. He is battling back from Tommy John surgery. We're going to follow him as much as we can through the minors. Hopefully set up some more interviews with him throughout his minor league career and possibly into his major league career. But we are going to do that, so make sure you are in on this guy. Make sure you can say that you were there when Cole Phillips did an interview with On Deck. Make sure you're there. And I think that kid has got such a bright future. So make sure you go check out that interview. And again, we got about 10 more minutes, so get your questions in if you got them. I'm answering as many of them as I can before we gear up for the series against the Mets. Jake Hobby wants a prediction for possible breakout game tonight. I think the most... I think the guy that most people hope breakout would be Ronald Acuna. That being said, it's not a guarantee, but that's who I would hope the most because that's the guy I think that has the most potential to break out, just hasn't done it yet, at least since he started slumping. So that being said, he's the guy that I would like to see break out. But in terms of who I think could contribute to the game, it's hard to not go with Austin Riley just because of how good of a July he had. I think Kyle Wright will pitch well. He's had a good year. You got a right-handed pitcher on the mound. Maybe you expect a left-handed hitter. Maybe Michael Harris could break out. So maybe Eddie Rosario. He had a great night for bobblehead night the other day. I thought that was cool to see. Maybe he's starting to break out. So we'll see. But that would be my possible breakout game tonight. Would be hopefully Acuna. It'd be great to see him do something if he could go 3 for 4. If he could get like a couple doubles. If he could get a homer. I just want to see some consistency. But we will see on that. And again, you got a right-handed starter on the mound. Michael Harris would be my pick if you're just talking logistics here. Panther says he is getting a AA cardboard cutout, and it's going to be worth it. I agree with you. I can't wait to see the picture of this. And will Iglesias break out at the end of the year with a less than 3.50 ERA? I think he could. I think being surrounded by a pen that, it is good, which no offense to the Angels, but the organization over there is a little questionable. I'm not saying the bullpen is. I'm not educated enough on their pen. I knew about Iglesias, but I couldn't tell you another reliever they have. That being said, I think being in a spot like the Braves where you don't have as many situations with the Braves bullpen has a habit of picking each other up, right? If everybody remembers last year, Madzik coming in the postseason and saving Luke Jackson, right? 3 strikeouts in a row. But the Braves bullpen has a real habit of getting each other out of trouble, right? And ERA is a funny stat because it's earned runs, but it's also, all right, if I got 2 runners on and I get taken out and the next pitcher gives up a homer, those 2 runs belong to me. So it's not necessarily all him. I would like to see him break out, but I don't know that that's necessarily going to be reflected in the ERA going down significantly. I think it'll go down, but I don't know if it's going to go down as much as 350 and below. But I think it could. I think 350 is reasonable. But guys that want it to go down below that, it's going to be tough. Steve Cash says night shift does love each other, but Smith had to go. I don't disagree. I think a change of scenery could help Smith. And I think the Braves did right by him. They traded him to a competitor. They traded him to a guy that, frankly, he doubled his chances to get a ring this year. I think, either one of these teams could go all the way. But, with Smith, it's, he struggled this year. Look, I like Will Smith. The guy was great to me. He was great in the postseason. But this year he struggled, and he was on the last leg of his contract. I don't know if I was, I don't know if I was sure he was going to be able to contribute later in the season. So, I'm not upset by it at all. I understood the decision, and we got a good return in Odorizzi. I mean, if we wanted a starter and all it took was Will Smith, then, I think that's great. And we got a guy with an ERA that is less than Ian, or less than Will, and, less than Ian Anderson as well. But, we got a guy that is a legit starter and is really going to help this month. This is a very timely pickup. Like I said earlier, you got 2 doubleheaders. They're highlighted in yellow there, 6th and the 13th. One's this Saturday against the Mets, and one is next Saturday versus Miami. So having 6 starters is never a bad thing. Let's see who else we got here. Johnny Quest tunes in. He says, sure be nice to see the Braves sweep all 5 games versus the Mets. By the way, I am new here. Look, we'd all love to see it. We would love to see 5 games straight because that would flip the NL East on its head. Is it likely? Probably not, but, never say never. Lori Lee says, oh, by the way, I'm new here. Thank you. Hope you're subscribed. Lori Lee says, well-rounded, great young players, Braves tradition, not just great athletes. Looking forward to young Cole. She is talking about that prospect I talked to last week. Make sure to go check out that interview with Cole Phillips. Again, thank you for that, Lori Lee. Do appreciate that. Yeah, he is a very well-rounded young man, and I'll tell you, he's going to say some quotes that are going to make you want him, going to make you want him in the MLB tomorrow. So yeah, go check that out again, Cole Phillips. I think he's got a very bright future in a Braves uniform. Let's see. Johnny Quest, that would be devastating if the Braves won all 5 games. Again, is it likely? Probably not. But we will see this week. Luca tunes in. Hey, good to hear from you, man. Says Smith gave up a homer in his first appearance as an Astro. LOL. We talked about that earlier. I mentioned it. That's just the instant impact. I hope Will Smith gets over there and performs great until he plays the Braves in the postseason. That's what I hope for. But or in the World Series again. But at the same time, the Braves had to make a decision. They made it. We're here now, and we got to move forward. We'll wish Will Smith the best. Thank him for the World Series. Thank him for the NLCS. Thank him for the Division Series. And thanks for the back half of last season. I appreciate it. But I think we also had to move on. I think we're all very aware of that. Steve Cash says, hit the like button on the way out. Please do that. We got 3 minutes to go. Hit the like button. Helps me out a ton. If you've sat here for an hour listening to me, you better hit that like button. Chris Fields, he was the first one in here tonight. He says, Tyler, do you think Acuna's contract situation has anything to do with his mood? Could he see the money getting spent and what other teams are giving up for other guys close to his talent? Here's the thing. Here's the thing with that. Acuna got a lot of money up front that was not guaranteed in that his original contract. The Braves made that deal, and you know what? I thought it was a good deal for both sides. I thought Acuna got a lot of money up front, and the Braves got a great player for a long time. They could adjust it. They may adjust it based on the Riley deal. But at the same time, I look at it and I go, the Braves have a lot more fans now going to the ballpark. I mean, how many times do you hear the Braves sold it out tonight? They sold it out tomorrow night. They sold it out last night. You hear that a lot. So with that, you have more payroll. I think you have more need to lock up someone like Riley right now because you've proven to be a legitimate contender for a World Series. And because you have Acuna locked up, maybe you adjust the deal. I think the real guy you need to adjust if you're going to do it is Ozzie Albies. $35 million for 7 years. He's probably making, pennies on the dollar compared to some of these guys. And the Braves are not going to pay a Juan Soto contract. It's not going to happen. I don't care how good of a player it is. That's just not going to happen. And because they have so many other options they can go to. I think Acuna, I don't think it's affecting his mood or play on the field. It could be a thought in his mind, but I don't think it's affecting his play. I genuinely think he is, for one, coming back from the ACL injury, 2, lacking Ozzie Albies, and 3, it's just a slump. It just happens. That being said, he needs to get out of it, but we'll see. Lori Lee, all right, I'm going to go a little longer here. I'll go a little longer past 7, but y'all got to hurry it up. We got to get out of here. I'll answer a few more. She says, I still say Matzik bobblehead should have had a tiny Pujols, Souza, and Betts bobbles on his shoulder. That's funny. It's very funny. If you don't know what that's from, then you didn't watch the postseason. Do the YouTube stuff, as Steve Cash says. Like the video. Appreciate it, man. Johnny Quest says, I noticed the Braves play the Mets a lot in the month of August. They do. They have 9 total games. So it would be nice to get 4 out of 5 this time. 5 out of 5 would be awesome. It'd be nice to just get 3 out of 5, honestly. Just keep the pace because September, you're golden at that point. If you can get to first place before September, I think you're in very good shape to win the division at the end of the year. But you do finish up with the Mets in October as well, so that is something to keep in mind. We have a lot of games with the Mets in the second half, but yeah, we have a lot. Edward Beers says, Braves have added some great arms to our pitching staff, and we have a great, strong bullpen. Also, some strong arms in the outfield and power up and down the lineup. Go Braves and chop on. You are absolutely correct, brother. I don't have anything to add on that. Lucas says, I want the best for Smith, but it's just funny how old habits die hard. You know, I would like to see Smith throw more fastballs. I think he would do better that way. Corey Carter says the Braves bought out Acuna's arbitration years. They did, and they gave him a lot of money up front. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You might look at that deal and go, well, you know, they paid Riley a lot more. Sure, but I don't have a problem with it. I don't think Acuna does either. He's living a high life in Atlanta right now. Corey Carter says Dansby isn't signing anything. He is hitting free agency at this point. I don't disagree. That's why I wanted him to get locked up before the trade deadline and get extended. He might have wanted to see what Riley got. You know, he might have wanted to wait and see, you know, if they lock up Riley and he gets X amount, I want this amount, right? You never know. I don't know if that's necessarily the case. Agents and baseball players and front offices work kind of strange. They don't, you know, tell you everything. Dansby wants to have a good year, and look, if he helps us win another World Series and goes off into the sunset, then so be it. But he's having a good year this year, and if he wants to go to free agency, he is well within his right. Let's see. Lucas says the Braves have had over $3 million, or 3 million people in attendance this year. I'll tell you, I used to go to games, and I used to be able to walk down and sit in the front row if I wanted to because it was so empty. I can't do that anymore, if that tells you anything. They've had a great year this year attendance-wise. They had a great year the back half of last year attendance-wise. That's why they were able to do a lot at the trade deadline and be able to do a lot of what they did to lead to the World Series. Last two questions. Dolphin says, I bet Ozzy will do good when he returns. I think he's going to be motivated. I think they definitely will be motivated. But last thing, guys, Corey Carter, thanks for tuning in, brother. If you want to watch the first part, I suggest you do it. I know you came in late. He says the Braves have a contentious relationship with Casey Close. That they do, and that's Dansby's. Dansby has Excel Sports Management, but I don't believe he's got Casey Close. Same company, different representative, I think. Don't quote me on that. But, you know, we will see. When it comes to Casey Close, you know, what we know and what we don't know are two things that are very different. And there's a lot of speculation there, but that's another reason I wasn't going to say it. That's another reason I'm not so sure on Dansby, honestly, is because of that. Riley Keeney, thank you for that, brother. We are about to wrap it up, though. I hate to break it to you, but the replay will be up on the channel soon. We are gearing up for the Braves in 7 minutes, so I'm going to get off. The arrogant Cord Dog wants a score prediction. With Kyle Wright and Carlos Carrasco on the mound, both right-handed pitchers, I'm going to go 4-3 Braves. But look, it's a baseball game. We'll see what happens. That being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. We're going to wrap it up with that. Thank you all for liking the video. Thank you all for being a part of the chat. I do appreciate it. We're trying to do a lot more of these on off days, on games like today where we're facing the Mets, and I really wanted to get out ahead and show you August, show you September, and show you kind of what I'm thinking the Braves are going to do in that time frame. So thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you want content right now, I told you about that Acuna video. It's on the channel. Trade deadline videos are on the channel. Cole Phillips interview is on the channel. A Matt Olson interview is on the channel. Just go check out the channel. You'll find something you like if you're a Braves fan. So go check it out. Again, thank you for being a part of tonight. And I will look forward to doing another live with you soon. So thanks for that. And with that, we will see you next time right here and On Deck.